Did coming to you right here from the house of the late struggle veteran Ntate John Nkadimeng, who passed away on Thursday at the age of 93. I mean, here we are talking about one of the people who took a stand against apartheid during the dark days of our country, rather. Played a role in the formation of Kwasatu, and for that he faced the brutal face of apartheid when he was detained in 1952. 4 years later, in 1956, he was charged with treason. We also know that for his role, he was bestowed the highest honor of Luthuli in gold. Luthuli, sorry for that. And the president has announced that it's going to be a special official funeral, category 1. But to speak to us a little bit more about this giant is SACP's Ntate Mapele. Thanks so much, Ntate Mapele, for your time and speaking to us. I mean, weeks ago, we sadly we said goodbye to yet another struggle icon, Ntate Isithwalandwe. And in weeks later, little did we know that we would also be bidding farewell to yet another person who played a huge role in the country's liberation.
Yeah, we first express our sincere condolences to the Nkadimeng family and the rest of the liberation movement. This was one of our foremost patriots, an internationalist, a trade unionist, a communist, a national revolutionary, who spent his entire life serving our people. He's a category 1 revolutionary, the best of the best that you can get, most humble but extremely committed. He taught us a lot about patriotism, about our country, the love for your country, the love for your people, for the rivers of our country, the nature of our country, the mountains. He used to give us a lot of sermons about patriotism, about the defense of the land and what it means to defend the land and what the land is about. I remember in one of the instances when he was serving in our central committee and he objected to national congresses of the party being held in Johannesburg. And he said, let them be across the country. Let the people from all over the country travel the length and breadth of their country. Let them see the seas of their country. Let them see their mountains, the rivers, so that one day when they have to defend this country, they know what is it that they are defending. He was one of those important patriots of our movement, and I think he will be sadly missed. We are losing at this moment in time as a revolution the best we had, the greatest wisdom of our revolutionaries, and I think we are much poorer without people like him, because these ones, they were the most incorruptible of the lot. They did everything for the people and nothing for themselves. It is therefore important that his legacy should be emulated. He will live on, and we must continue with his undying spirit, fighting spirit, and making sure that our movement can get rid of all these negative things of corruption, corrupt elements within itself, so that his memory can be properly cleaned, because they never, and his generation never stole from anyone. Instead, they gave their all to the people.
Talking about his character, this is no ordinary leader, this is no ordinary person. I mean, the role that he played, I mean, even when he got arrested and detained, during the dark days of our country, he never stopped fighting for his people. He continued to fight for his people. That it clearly speaks to his character and what he stood for.
Yes, indeed. It was like his generation, Isithwalandwe, that is the highest honor that our liberation movement gives through the ANC to such people. But they were unbreakable. They were made of a particular spirit that for them, everything for the people and nothing against the interests of the people. That's how the mold that they were made up of. But not only for South Africa, as you know, he contributed immensely in the building of the World Federation of Trade Unions, basically the trade union movement across the world, because he understood that workers united and workers in power, they will be able to end the system of exploitation, the system of capitalism, and they can truly free themselves. So he felt that freedom without workers in charge of the means of production and in charge of the objective of production, that is what to do with what they produce, they will not be able to free themselves ultimately. They will remain having freedom in paper, but their lives will remain in misery. So that's why people like him never concern themselves much with accumulation. They concern themselves much with making sure that everyone is having a better life and all our people can live freely and have access to basic things, water, health services, education, transport, and other social services that are important for people to sustain themselves.
How can we remember him? I mean, you spoke of him, you spoke of his caliber, and looking at where our country is, I mean, the very same government that he fought for now, you know, it looks like it's neglecting its people, corruption is high, and even workers, are still, facing issues at their working environment. How can we remember this giant? Looking at, the country is facing a lot of corruption and workers are facing their own plight.
We have to set a good example by taking action against those who are stealing from the public purse, taking them to jail, arresting people, prosecuting them, and making sure that the cases do stand the law and people are then taken to jail, because just talking about it without proper action that people can actually go and account, even going to jail, will not be able to deter them again to commit such kind of heinous activities like stealing from the poor, particularly in the midst of COVID-19 when the country is in crisis. But to draw a monument for people like him is to build a new value system inside our democracy, so that the value system of honesty, of accountability, of selflessness, of empathy, of feeling the pain of the people, and making sure that the government institutions as they function, like under COVID-19, the response has been quite effective. We want, even outside COVID-19, but following appropriate rules, the government's response to the needs of the people to be as effective like when we were under COVID or disaster management processes. Meaning that we don't have to wait for too long and for people to have protests before we respond to their challenges. Because we live amongst the people and we know the daily struggles that the people are going through, and therefore our response and the response to all other revolutionaries like Ntate Nkadimeng should actually to emulate the inner value system of our liberation movement.
Your fondest memory of him?
The greatest memory I have of him was when he was telling us about our country when we were in the camps. We used to call him the principal patriot, because many other leaders will come and talk long, big speeches of ideologies and so forth, which are important, of course. But he will focus us on the love in our country. I remember one speech when he spoke to us in the camps and said we'll go back home one day, and he says, in that beautiful land, mountainous country of South Africa, it's misty in our country. And we're almost like crying just after listening to him speaking about the beauty of our country, something that we never considered perhaps serious. But his teachings about patriotism were just quite excellent, and you never forget about why you were carrying arms and fighting for your country.
Well, there you go, studio, talking to us, the SACP, talking to us about what or who this person was. But I'm going to bring in Minister of Home Affairs here, who's also came to pay his visit to the family during this dark time. And your fondest memory of this giant?
Well, I know him from after the unbanning. Obviously, we just used to read about them as legend. It so happened that he was very close to my uncle, another Isithwalandwe, Elias Mutswaledi. So they used to come together to my mother's place in Skukune, because they were homeboys, you see. Nhlanhla Kgatlhane comes from a place called Manganing in Skukune, and Elias come from Pokwane. That's where I come from. And it's about 20 kilometers apart. So they were part of Sibata Homu, even before the relationship in ANC. And so they were very close. So they'll come together. He's a gentle giant who will teach you everything about the struggle, who will teach you discipline. One of the things I can mention, which of course people may not relate to the struggle, is his sense of dress. He will not allow you to go with him, especially when we visited royal families in Sekhukhune. Just wearing like I'm doing today. He was immaculately dressed and very respectful, respectable of where you're going to. There is something about Ntate Nkadimeng which I used to query with him. Up to today, as a doctor, I don't even answer. You know, when they sleep at home, he'll go into the house, into the bedroom, put on his pajamas, go out and light a cigarette and smoke and go to sleep. You know, I'm talking about cigarettes at the time they are banned, but I'm relating history here, you know, and go to sleep. Then I regarded him as a smoker, but you'll never see him smoking any time of the day. Then in the evening again, when he goes to sleep, he does the same thing. Then I approached him, obviously as a doctor. I said, look, you're going to get addicted and are you calling yourself a smoker or not? He said, no, I'm just smoking this one when you go to sleep. I said, you're going to get addicted. That's not how cigarettes work. If you start smoking, one, today, tomorrow is 2, then 3, 4, 5. But I saw him doing that throughout. And medically, I can't explain it. Smoking one cigarette a day, only when you go to sleep, and never touch it through the whole day. I thought I'll catch him somewhere, maybe during the day hiding and smoking another one. He never did so. So those are some of the miracles of human beings, but Ntate Nkadimeng was like that.
Thank you so much, Minister. I guess it speaks to how disciplined he was.
Oh, yes, he was very heavily disciplined. Yes.
Well, that's it from me. Back to the studio. They speak highly of him, talking about what he believed in, how much he loved this country, how much he loved his people. SACP Sulimapaila, they're saying that, you know, he would be worried about the level of corruption because this is not what they fought for. With that being said, it's back to you in studio.
Thank you so much there to Nhlanhla Kgatlhane.